Hi there, it's March 19th, 2020. I'm Drutter, and this is the day 4 of my Canadian coronavirus quarantine diary. I've been uploading every day so far and talking about what's going on for me as I'm in lockdown here in southern British Columbia, inland a few hours drive from the coast in a region called the Okanagan of BC, Canada. And this video will have a little bit of news about my section of the world in regards to this outbreak, and also some personal anecdotes, specifically what's been going on for me, and people have been following along for both of those two reasons. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix of both. And first off, I wanted to mention that we are now over 10,000 deaths worldwide for the confirmed for this coronavirus, and 12 of those deaths confirmed are in Canada, and 9 are specifically here in British Columbia. There are 500 deaths per day in Italy now. Has been creeping up, 3, 4, now I think it's just under 500. Probably tomorrow will be over 500 deaths. That's a fair number, obviously. Italy's really suffering. There's 200 deaths per day in Spain right now, and that is definitely going up. And I've been doing a little research on where Canada and the USA are in relation to the other countries that started their outbreaks a little sooner than we did, and it seems to be that we are about 10 days behind Italy in number of infections and how fast it's spreading. So in about a week and a half we can expect, as long if we don't do any social isolation and all those things they're talking about, if we don't take drastic measures, I think we will probably be like Italy then. Not exactly. We have a different population here, and there's different factors, but the way that it's spreading outside of Italy, in France, in Switzerland, in all parts of Europe really, Germany, terrible spread and terrible suffering going on. And we've talked about before about how people will say, well, there's suffering going on and deaths going on and infections going on in many illnesses, including the flu. And, I've heard that many times, and we talked about it in past videos, so I don't really want to go into it here, but, basically, this is the beginning of an outbreak, and we don't really understand the numbers that are coming. We only understand the numbers we've seen, and the numbers we've seen are exponential. I'll put up on the screen a little graphic number of deaths over time, and as you can see, it is going exponential. And so it's hard, just looking at the numbers today or yesterday's numbers and stuff, it's hard to see, but when you look at a pattern, you can see where it's going. This is an exponential pattern, and humans, as I said before, have a real problem intrinsically understanding exponential growth. We don't encounter it very much naturally. Viruses are one way that we do encounter it, but humans don't know the numbers of viruses, so we've never really been able to appreciate how exponential growth works. But in this case, number of infections is growing exponentially, and so we have to be aware that we will be like Italy in 10 days. The pattern is there, the numbers are there, the data is there. It's going to be somewhere around 10 days, maybe 14 days or whatever, but the point is, without some kind of intervention, there is going to be massive problems. And we'll talk in other videos, of course, about the ramifications of these interventions and how civil liberties are being damaged or lost. And this has to be a temporary thing. And of course, the government is always does not want to give up rights when it gives them to the people, and it eventually takes them back. It doesn't want to give that back again, but these rights belong to Canadians and belong to humans. And so we need to make sure that this is a temporary measure, this lockdown. And unfortunately, it's not looking that good in some parts of the world. There's complete draconian lockdowns, and not just China, but I think it's Argentina. Yeah, it's Argentina, where they're having prison terms for anyone that leaves home. You can't even leave home, so they're in shelter in place, just beyond state of emergency. They're in shelter in place, and then beyond that, I guess martial law, I guess, is the next step. You're not allowed to even move around outside of your dwelling. I don't know what homeless people do. I guess they're just going straight to prison because they don't have a home, or straight to a camp or something. That's just a whole other matter. And prisons themselves are death traps. We've seen that in Iran. They had an outbreak in a prison, and it started to spread very rapidly. Haven't been following exactly what ended up happening there, but in the past, with communicable diseases, there can be horrible outbreaks in prisons, and there can be massive, 20, 30, 40, even more percentage of a prison population can be wiped out, sometimes by certain viruses that can spread very quickly in those close conditions and where they don't have a lot of access to healthcare. So in this time of grave health concerns for all humans, and in this time of grave economic concerns for all humans, it's very unfortunate that we are imprisoning people still for non-violent offenses and for doing nothing wrong to anyone else and harming anyone else. They just broke some kind of regulation, or they, for example, cannabis prohibition. Maybe they bought, they used, or sold, or grew cannabis and are in prison for that. And there's just so many examples of people in prison, including here in Canada. Even with legalization, they're still going to prison for cannabis, quote, offenses. And these are non-violent people. These people have done nothing wrong except for grow or use plants, and for themselves even, or for selling them for other people on the free market to other adults. So, these people shouldn't be in prison, and many of them will die as this infection spreads through prison. So, please, I'm imploring anyone who has any power or any say, please release all non-violent cannabis offenders, and anyone who's non-violent. And during this time we can recall them to prison later if we must, but you can't just lock people up and let them drown in their own mucus. It's going to be horrible deaths for so many people. They're going to die alone and in pain, and nobody wants that, not even for prisoners. Especially people who've done no harm to anyone else. And here in BC they're talking about emergency funds that are going to be coming in 2 to 3 weeks. They're printing $82 billion out of thin air. Well, not printing, obviously, they're just creating it in a computer. And supposedly some of that is going to find its way to people who lost their livelihoods because of the lockdown. So I was talking yesterday about people on disability, which includes my wife, Katie. And, that doesn't seem to be getting talked about. The disability payments are not coming till next Wednesday still, and the shelves locally have been emptying out, and all across Canada and the world, people are stocking up and getting ready for this lockdown, which is coming any day or any minute now. In fact, everywhere, and already is in a lot of places, but here in BC it's coming at any time, and a lot of us haven't stocked up. We can't. We've been, people in the poverty line, and it's really unfortunate that it's those most vulnerable people that are going to be hit hardest, because we have no food, we have no medicine, we have no supplies, nothing in store right now. I know a lot of people are in that boat, as the economy never really did come back in 2008. It has been a mess for a lot of people still. So this could be really bad, depending on how long it lasts. And they're talking about how long is it going to last. They're talking about it could last months. Sometimes some people and some governments are saying 12 to 18 months. These kind of shutdowns and these kind of lockdowns and different things. That seems like a really, really long time. And if they're telling us it's going to be that long, does that mean it might be even longer? Government estimates sometimes being a little bit wrong. Don't know, but just some questions there, just some concerns, I guess. A little more personal anecdotes. My parents did make it back into the country. Yay! I talked in the first one a few days ago about how my parents were in New Zealand, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but they made it back. They were basically on the last flight into the country. The border slammed shut behind them, my dad basically said. There are still some ways that you can get in and out of the country, very, very specific ways, but essentially the country is completely locked down. Nothing is open except for pharmacies and grocery stores, and there's a few individual shops here and there, not chains, I don't think, but a lot of little smaller shops that aren't grocery or pharmacy that are still open, but maybe just until the weekend. Maybe just till tomorrow. I don't know, maybe they'll close tonight and that's it. Anything can change at a moment's notice right now. Everything has been changing every moment. So I'm just trying to bring you the most up-to-date what's going on here in BC and in my life. And what else is going on here? The baby has food and supplies for a few weeks. This is my 6-month-old surprise baby that came along last year. And Medicaid and I have food for a few weeks also, but medicine only for 10 days. She uses cannabis all the time, constantly. She has a prescription for that, but it doesn't mean that it's free or provided in any way. She still has to get it from the black market because the legalized market doesn't carry what she needs, and also anything they do carry is 5-6 times more expensive than on the free market. So there's no way that she can use the legalized system. And so even if she did, they don't cover that anyway. So there's no way to get cannabis covered, even though she has a prescription that says that she needs it to stay alive. It's very strange. Almost every other medication in Canada is covered, but cannabis still has that stigma to it, that it is a drug that people use to have fun and to relax or whatever, and that's not okay. So, but anyway, that's a topic for many other videos, and I've done those, and I will continue to. But so anyway, she has medicine for 10 days, and like I was saying yesterday, we get paid next Wednesday. We get some digital units will be dispensed next Wednesday. But the local shops, including little dispensaries and stuff on the free market that we would normally go to, will be closed as of tomorrow or sooner. So it looks like we're not going to have medicine. We're going to be locked in here without medicine, without cannabis. I have, as I said yesterday, a small crop of 4 plants growing, and they'll be ready soon, but this is a very, very small amount. The way I grow is a very small amount. You can't, indoors, unless you have a large room full of plants, you're not going to get the kind of medicine you need to treat cancer, PTSD, chronic pain, and so forth. So it would be great if we could, but that's the way I grow, is without fertilizers and so on. I grow just with worm castings. And unfortunately, I can't even find any anymore. They've been snapped up locally. There are no worm castings, so I'm going to have to change how I grow medicine. And anyway, it takes about 3 months for the next crop, so it's going to be a very long time before we have any more. And so that's the stress. As the medicine stockpile we have, the number of grams in stock goes down each day. It's a stress looking at that, because just imagine if that was your medicine. Just imagine what you take every day, and imagine you only had 10 doses left, and each day you're taking 1 left, and you've got 3 doses left, say, or 2 doses left. And you're looking at that empty pill bottle, right? And the pharmacy's not there. And this is a pill that keeps you healthy, keeps you alive. It's the same thing. Don't stigmatize it just because it used to be a prohibited drug. A lot of people's medications that they take make them feel good or make them relaxed or other, effects. It doesn't make it sinful. It doesn't make it wrong. Same with cannabis. So it's just that stigma that we still have. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of cannabis users, patients, even with prescriptions, a lot of them, that are going to suffer. And I'm afraid that many will die. We have seen it many times in the past with prohibition. Prohibition kills. Cannabis saves lives and heals people and communities. So prohibiting it is the opposite of saving lives. It kills people. Prohibition does kill, unfortunately. And I have documented that over the years. But, that's where I am personally. We are okay for food at the moment. But even 2 weeks or 3 weeks of food, bags of rice that are slowly emptying, and cans of beans that are disappearing. Your selection of what you get to eat each day goes down and stuff. That's not the kind of thing that anyone expects to happen in Canada in 2020. That's not even the kind of thing that anyone expected in Canada in 1970. This is the kind of, poverty for the middle class has been kind of eradicated usually. But here we are, and I don't know exactly how we got to this point. I've got a clue, but it's sort of stunning to be at a point where all of a sudden, even Canada's most vulnerable, disabled people and families and people with children can't get formula for the babies, can't get diapers, can't get basics, can't get a bag of rice. That's a problem. That's a real problem. Can't get a jug of water. Can't get a bottle of water. It's becoming a real problem. So, not to spread fear, but, that's to spread information. Yes, it's scary, but we don't have to let that fear overwhelm us. That fear is an emotion that we experience, and that's natural and okay. But we have courage to let us overcome. And with knowledge, that helps us have more courage. In my opinion, that's how I feel about it. That's how I overcome fear. My brother called me and said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm filled with fear and courage." And he paused for a second until he, grasped what I was talking about. And he was like, "Yeah, that's about it. That's about how it's going." Yeah, that's about how it's going. But it's good to have my parents back in the country. They are now quarantined another 12 days. Then again, we all basically are quarantined, but they are extra quarantined. They're not allowed out of the house. So they had to promise that they wouldn't leave their house when they passed through the border into Canada. Interesting. And yeah, everything shutting down, that includes banks, right? Banks will not be open. Banks will not be available. There may be some online banking going on for those people that have signed up for it and gone through the ID process and got that set up and stuff, but not everyone has a bank account even, but those people who do, not everyone has online banking, and of those who do, some people are missing internet connections right now. So, there's a bit of a bank holiday going on is what I'm saying, a little bit of a bank holiday. They are closing their branches and closing their services, and certain things are shut, non-essential services are shutting. So it is a bit of a bank holiday. You can still get your money out, yes. It's not a full bank holiday, but it's a partial bank holiday. And it hasn't been announced as such, so just putting that out there. Also, when I talked to my parents, my mom said she called the bank and they told her two things. One, don't take any money out of the bank right now. And two, we're closed. Online only. Don't call us. And don't come in. So, that's probably not just their bank. That's probably a lot of banks going on like that right now. So, remember, bank holidays aren't announced beforehand. They happen instantly. Instantly. They have to. Otherwise, people would take their money out, It has to happen before the money gets all taken out. And the money's getting taken out quickly right now. I'll tell you that much. People are pulling their cash out and putting it in their safe. You can put it back in a couple weeks if things blow over. It's great. You're not going to lose a lot of interest at 0%. So, but a lot of people are finding there's limits of how much they can take out, either at the machine or in the branch. They're saying, no, don't take out your money. We need to keep the financial system stable with your money. You can't have your money. So that's a bit of a problem. And I think that is going to escalate as the economy continues to collapse, as none of us are working essentially. Almost nobody's, basically just there's food being produced by the farms, I guess, and trucks bringing into supermarkets, and the government printing money to keep that running. But how long does that work for? It doesn't seem very sustainable in the long term. We're basically paying people to not do their jobs right now. So we're basically running through cash and resources faster than normal, and not producing stuff, goods and services. We're not producing those goods and services anymore because we're staying home and watching Netflix, apparently. That's not going to work long term. And no matter how many $84 billion or how many $1.5 trillion and so forth that they conjure from thin air and put into these markets, it's not going to save it, and it's not going to keep the food coming forever either. So we need something more sustainable than this at some point fairly soon. But right now, it's time for social isolation. It really is. And I'm going to leave it there. You've been looking at the SkyTrain in Vancouver, some footage I took a few years ago. Beautiful city, Vancouver. If you've never been, well, I guess I can't really talk about travel right now, but what a city it is. And that's it for today. So I will talk to you again tomorrow, most likely, on day 5 of my Canadian coronavirus quarantine diary. Talk to you guys soon. Stay healthy.